Carol, I'd like to thank our witnesses for the work you're doing across the spectrum of the areas we're discussing today. Your endeavours, I think, by all are appreciated. I'd like to congratulate Kieran and Ger and their teams on the homes that you've created and setting new standards. I think that's really, really interesting. Fair play. I've been fortunate to work with Des O'Toole, who has shown me the wonders of our timber sector, but also enlightened me to the barriers to increasing the use of timber in modern methods of construction. My question goes to NSAI and Oireachtas and concerns the realisation of cross-laminated timber, or CLT as we know it as, using Irish C16 timber. Ms. Larkin, your statement refers to agreement certification being a process for certifying innovative construction products and systems where no standard exists, and that the NSAI provides manufacturers with methods of showing that a product is a proper material, thereby complying with Irish building regulations. Your statement also notes that you're updating the structural design Eurocodes, which you just mentioned, and product codes to allow for the evolving technologies, including cross-laminated timber. So my question is simple. Has a process begun to procure agreement certs for CLT produced from Irish-grown C16? And I ask this question in the context of CLT being a modern method of construction. Dr. Annette Hart's CLT research shows we can make it here, and that we export the raw material for CLT to the UK in large quantities. If it has begun, can you provide us with a timeline of when the agreement certificate or certificates will be produced to allow the construction sector to realise the potential of Irish C16 timber in the construction sector, akin to the other jurisdictions that I know of where they can build up to 20 plus stories? And in the context of saying you can build beyond what the reg says, I know that from experience in working in the sector, but you won't get a fire cert because they'll say it doesn't match, or at least that's my experience of it. So you can go outside of it, but from my experience, it's very difficult. So is there a process undergoing at the moment where we can use our timber, you know, to make C16? And I've had meetings with the department. Sean Armstrong has said, you know, that's where the timber industry move forward if there is an agreement cert to show we can produce C16. But is that, I'm wondering, is that happening? Thanks.
Thank you, Deputy. I suppose I might start at the end of your question. Typically, an agreement's application takes between 6 and 12 months. Now that, and I say typically because it depends on the amount of information that's provided and the evidence in support of the particular application. So that's the question in terms of timeline. And we have some that are longer than that, I should add, where we're waiting on manufacturers to provide us with information. That being said, as of now, we do not have any agreement applications with us that are proposing the use of CLT. Okay. So I suppose we respond. We're demand driven in that we will deal with, and I'm sure my colleague, Mr. Balfe, will expand on it. But we respond to the applications that we receive in, rather than based on the particular manufacturing system.
And can a state body then apply for that? I'm sorry for putting the guys on the spot, but the likes of Oireachtas, if we've been, I know from Kieran and what I've learned from Kieran, since the mid-80s we've been harvesting our timber roundwood, and that's what, nearly 40 years. You would have thought somewhere within that process, and the fact that CLT is, you know, modern enough at the moment, I'm sure it's been in the system for a good 20 years maybe, that somehow that you know, those things haven't been connected to say, right, somebody from the state tells somebody else from the state, let's get an agreement cert for CLT so we can use it, because at the minute, you know, we're dead in the water. Sorry.
Thank you. Agreement certification is a voluntary process and it's product specific. So when you say could Quilter or somebody else apply for it, the manufacturer needs to apply. Part of the process is we're looking at their procedures for the design and manufacturing the product itself. So Quilter are not manufacturing CLT as far as I know. So it wouldn't be appropriate that they would apply for it. Okay. So as I say, it's product specific and part of the process is looking at the quality controls of the manufacturer.
And if there was a project that was happening where Irish C16 was being produced, can a certificate be put against that?
Well, there's no issue with Irish C16. I mean, C16 is the structural graded timber and it has been graded. And if a manufacturer who is manufacturing CLT, maybe an Austrian manufacturer or wherever it's being manufactured, they can use that C16 timber. It's as good as C16 timber grown anywhere else.
But can a if that does happen, because I know a project where they're trying to make it happen, can an agreement cert be got for that product specifically, and then other people can then use it, or is it whoever's producing it?
No, the manufacturer is must be a part of the agreement procedure. Yeah, I mean they are supported. They're manufacturing the product. They're quality control, doing the design and.
Can I ask, what's the cost? Is there a cost involved? What's the cost?
Yeah, there's a cost. It's typically for a modern method of construction. It's in the range of €50,000.
Okay. Thanks. Yes.
Mr. O'Toole, please. Yeah.
Thank you, Deputy, for the question. I might just try and shed some light on why potentially there has been no application for an agreement cert. But just to comment before I do on your comment about the level of exports. The Irish forest product sector produces a range of products, fencing, pallet and construction grade material, which is the material, C16 material, which could potentially go into C16. Just last year, we produced around 700,000 cube of construction grade timber and 265,000 cube of that was exported predominantly to the UK. So it's probably about 35–37%. It's not as much as you would think. So we do have supply, and Mark has said earlier we have forecast growth as well, which is great. On the kind of status of agreement comment or question, as you rightly pointed out from Annette Hart and University of Galway's work, you know, that there has been a series of tests undertaken on the suitability of homegrown, and by and large, it's coming up trumps, which is great. CLT manufacturers themselves throughout Europe have what's called a European Technical Assessment, which is similar to an agreement cert. There's been tests undertaken, you know, fire tests, etc., for those products. There are no Irish manufacturers, and I think just to put it in context, the scale of investment required is anywhere to 50 to 90 million euros for a typical modest scale CLT manufacturing plant. The European market is about 1.8 million, that's what it's estimated at. There's 71 plants in Europe already producing CLT, 71 manufacturers. By and large, all of them have ETAs, and ETAs are accepted across Europe that's why those, you know, medium and high-rise buildings are built. Additional certification for what would be perceived from a European CLT manufacturer's perspective for a small market, which currently limits height to 11 metres for the reasons we discussed earlier, I don't believe they would undertake additional certification and the costs associated with that to get into a market that demand is relatively small. The UK market today is estimated 100,000 cubic metres, European 1.8. The Irish market is only a very small fraction of the UK market, so we're significantly smaller. So nobody's going to do that, I believe, or undertake additional tests for a small kind of market on the outer extremes of Europe. I would suggest maybe we consider an alternative, and you know there might be opportunities with Mount Lucas in order to stimulate demand, get our design practitioners, our fire officers, our fire engineers, our regulatory authorities, to get them familiar with the technology, to get them to understand what the potential it has. We need proof of concept, we need demonstration buildings, and if there was some mechanism to allow an ETA to be acceptable through a demonstration project that is highly designed and supervised and monitored, there may be a way to get something through the system so that we can bring, the people who have these concerns and show them what's possible. I think that's the way to do it. Quilcher certainly would be willing to work with local authorities, the OPW, Mount Lucas, industry, whoever. We've done it ourselves with Avondale, and we're willing to do it again. So there's huge opportunity here for Irish timber. We just need to find, a pathway through the regulatory environment today to seed the market, to see, what's possible.